Okay, so I saw some movies this week, and the first one that we're going to talk about is The Last Voyage of the Demeter. This movie is about Dracula on a boat. It is based on one of the segments of the original novel Dracula by Bram Stoker, which I have not read, but it's my understanding that the way that that book is laid out, it's kind of like the 19th century version of found footage. It's basically a collection of like ship logs and letters from person to person and stuff like that. And so this portion of the book dealt with Dracula escaping from Romania to London on a ship. And I don't know how much of that is in the book. It might have been a footnote, but it seems like a cool enough concept to turn into a movie. When I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. And I think there's a lot of really cool things that they did with this movie, but I think overall it's a little disappointing. I think there was kind of a lack of a strong tension through the film like you would expect. The concept of Dracula being on a boat, you're out in the middle of the ocean, nowhere to run, that kind of sounds like, you know, the premise of Alien, where you've got the alien on the ship and there's nowhere to go. In space, no one can hear you scream, yada, 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 all of that. And I was expecting something a little more claustrophobic in that regard, but we don't really get that. The set design for the ship is gorgeous, but a lot of the ship interiors look a lot more open and spacious than that kind of ship would actually have under there. I feel like there were a lot of moments where you should have felt like things were closing in more. A lot of the Dracula kills are very one note. I mean, obviously he's Dracula. Everybody knows he sucks your blood out of your neck. So of course that's what most of them are going to be, but it just kind of feels repetitive. And a lot of the kills just feel like, okay, you can basically, once you meet the cast, you're just like, okay, well, that dude's gonna die first because he's racist. And a lot of the characters are very, very stereotypical. The captain of the ship, who's played by the guy who was the Onion Knight in Game of Thrones, I think he says the word doom like 5 times in the movie, like, oh, this voyage is doomed. Doom is coming. We're doomed. I write this log to warn you all, but this ship is doomed. Like multiple times throughout the movie. And actually, the movie does open with the Demeter like shipwrecked on the shore, and somebody's like, oh, nobody's alive on the ship, and all we've got is the log. So it sets you up going, okay, this is a doomed vessel. Which kind of, you know, ruins a bit of it, because you're just like, okay, well, now that I know everyone's going to die, it's not a question of, oh no, are they going to make it? It's a question of, okay, when and how do they die? And I've got an issue with how they do Dracula himself. Dracula has often been portrayed as like a shapeshifter, like he turns from, you know, the human vampire form to a bat. But here he's just a giant human bat. And he's kind of monstrous. There's like a couple times in the movie where he talks, and there is a Romanian girl who is a stowaway on the ship who like Dracula had hidden in one of the crates because he was keeping her to feed. So she like knows all about, she's like, oh, got all the stories about him and stuff to fill in everyone else on. But he doesn't come across as like the erudite leader that you might have, that image that you have of Dracula. He's just like a monster who is there to eat you. It's very obvious that they set this one up hoping for sequels, because like obviously Dracula doesn't die on the Demeter. This is only one part of the book, and it seems like they want to adapt other stuff with it. And it has him at the end like hiding out somewhere in London, and he's got like a top hat and everything like that, so that he's like, you know, presenting as a gentleman, but like he can't shapeshift. So his face is still the bat monstrosity face. And I'm just like, how is that supposed to work? The main character of the film was played by Corey Hawkins, who I first introduced to in the Heights, where he played Benny. If you've seen In the Heights, I think it's a great musical. And when I saw that movie, I was like, the guy playing Benny, he deserves to be a star. He should go places. And I'm glad that he got the lead role in this one. He plays like a doctor and a naturalist. He's like the skeptic on board, who he's just like, there's no such thing as superstition, there's a rational explanation for everything. But then it's him slowly realizing that, oh no, there's like an actual vampire aboard. And I hope that he gets more opportunities than this, because it's my understanding that this movie's kind of flopped. I haven't looked at the exact box office or anything for it, but it could have been more exciting. There could have been more creativity in the kills. There could have been more buildup of the tension. I really think it was a mistake to open up with saying everyone died on this boat, because then you're like, okay, well, I know everyone's dying. I know nobody's making it. Feel like you could have not done that and had a little bit more tension, so you're not sure who's gonna make it. It's okay. It like I said, set design is gorgeous. The ship looks phenomenal. The story itself is pretty one note. The kills are about the same pretty much every single time, and Dracula's a bit too monstrous for my liking. I don't mind having a giant monster bat villain in a movie, but with Dracula, you typically have that idea of the more refined, like sophisticated, aristocratic vampire, right? That's usually the pop culture idea of him. And in this movie, he is just a monster who is eating people, but then they still want to have their cake and eat it too, because at the end, they just show him in a top hat like he's trying to blend in with the London elite, despite having a monstrous bat face. I don't know how that's going to work at all. I definitely don't think this is getting any sequels, but, you know, it's Universal. They keep going back to that well. They keep trying to get that one movie monster hit that will let them get in on their own, you know, big cinematic universe franchise. Like they tried it in 2017 with The Mummy. That was like deliberately being set up as like they had like a title card for it called Dark Universe, and they announced a bunch of actors playing a bunch of different, you know, monsters and stuff. And then The Mummy failed, and they just quietly swept that under the rug. I think they're probably at this point just hoping they're making a bunch of monster movies and then hoping one of them does well enough that they can use that to launch off of and build their franchise that way. But I kind of feel like the whole shared universe thing has been overplayed at this point. Like, I think it was really cool when Marvel was doing it in the early 2010s, and then everyone tried to play catch up, and now it's oversaturated. Don't get me wrong, if you give me a good movie where Dracula fights the Wolfman, I think that would be fun. I don't think you need to build a universe to do that. I think you could just make a Dracula versus the Wolfman movie. Just cast some new people for it. I think that would work fine. Dracula is such a known character that you don't need to have movies setting him up. Everyone knows who Dracula is. If there's nothing else to see that piques your interest, you might give this one a watch, but it could have been better. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream every Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes and Ryan D. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.